Hello and welcome, Easy Math Mates. Today we are going to study all about the properties of the operations on integers. So last time we have studied the different operations on integers. Today we will be focusing on the properties. So let's start with the first one. So the first property of the operations on integers is what we call the closure property. So ano nga bang ibig sabihin ng closure property? Ang ibig sabihin ng closure property, this is the definition: two integers that are added and multiplied remain as integers. The set of integers is closed under addition and multiplication. So this property is only applied in addition and multiplication. So sabi dito, kapag ang two integers ay inad natin or minultiply, they will remain as integers. So this is the condition. If A and B are the elements of I, or A and B are integers, then meaning to say A plus B is also an integer, or A times B is an integer. Example, 4 plus 2 is equal to 6, or 4 times 2 is equal to 8. So that is closure property. The second property is what we call the commutative property. The commutative property states that changing the order of two numbers that are either being added or multiplied does not change the value. Sa Tagalog, kahit pagpalitin daw natin yung order, yung pagkakasunod-sunod, yung pagkakaayos ng mga numbers or integers na ina-add natin or minumultiply, hindi magbabago ang sagot or yung value. So this is the condition for commutative property. So we have A plus B is just equal with B plus A. Or A times B is just equal with B times A. So in here, nakita ninyo na pinalitan lang yung order o yung pagkakasunod-sunod o yung ayos ng integer. But they are still equal with each other. Or the value or the answer of those numbers are just equal with each other. For example, 2 plus 3, that is equal to 5. Pag binago natin yung order nyan o yung position nyan, ginawa nating 3 plus 2, this is just also equal to 5. So, ang nagbago lang ay yung order at hindi yung sagot. So, that is commutative property. Another example is that 2 times 3, that is equal to 6. Pag pinagpalit natin sila ng position or ng pwesto, 3 times 2, that is also equal to 6. So, that is commutative property. Kahit pagpalit-palitin daw natin yung position ng mga numbers na ina-add natin o min-multiply, ang sagot ay ganun pa din. Hindi magbabago. So, let's have the third property. This is what we call the associative property. Associative property states that changing the grouping of the numbers that are either being added or multiplied does not change the value. So, here I highlighted the groupings. So, paano ba natin malalaman kapag ang mga numbers ay may groupings? Okay? Ang palatandaan natin dyan ay mayroon tayong tinatawag na parentheses. At hindi porket may parentheses, that is already a grouping. Sometimes the parentheses is used as multiplication. Malalaman natin na ito ay grupo ng mga numbers kapag sa loob ng parentheses ay mayroong dalawa o higit pang mga number. At doon sa gitna ng mga numbers ay mayroong mga operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. So, in this property, this will be the case. So, we have the quantity of A plus B plus C is just equal with A plus the quantity of B plus C. So, dito, ang unang magkagrupo ay yung A at saka B. Kapag pinalitan natin yung groupings niyan, ginawa nating B at C, ang sagot ay ganun pa din, hindi magbabago. Ang nagbago lang ay yung groupings. So again, associative property is just applicable with addition and multiplication. So, in addition, for example, we have here the quantity of 2 plus 3 plus 4. So, at una natin sasagutin ay yung nasa loob muna ng parenthesis. So, 2 plus 3, that will give us 5 plus 4, that is 9. So, tingnan natin kung magiging same yung sagot natin dito sa kabila kapag binago natin yung groupings ng mga numbers. So, we have 2 plus the quantity of 3 plus 4. So, again, unahin nating sagutan yung nasa loob ng parentheses. 3 plus 4, that will give us 7. Plus 2, that will give us 9. So, ang sagot ay same. So, ibig sabihin, kahit palitan natin yung grouping sa mga numbers, same pa din ang magiging sagot, hindi magbabago. Ang nagbago lang ay yung groupings. Okay, next is the associative property and multiplication. So, in here, we have A times B times C is just equal with A times B times C. So, ang nasa first group natin dito ay yung A and B. On the second groupings ng mga numbers, we have B and C inside the parentheses. So, we have here 2 times 3 times 4 is just equal with 2 times 3 times 4. So, let's have the first example, this one. So, dito muna tayo sa 2 times 3 times 4 na ang nakagrupo ay yung 2 and 3. 2 times 3, that will give us 6. 6 times 4 is 24. Tignan natin kung same ang magiging sagot dito sa kabila kapag pinalitan natin yung grupo. So, dito we have 2 times the quantity of 3 times 4. So, yung nasa loob muna ng parentheses. 3 times 4, that will give us 12 times 2 is 24. So, same lang ng sagot. Hindi nagbago ang quantity or yung value. Ang nagbago lang ay yung grouping. So, that is associative property. Next property is what we call the distributive property. So, the distributive property states that when two numbers have been added or subtracted and then multiplied by a factor, the result will be the same when each number is multiplied by a factor and the products are then added or subtracted. So, sa madaling sabi, from the name itself, distributive property, in distributive property, we distribute number. Okay? The number that we distributed will be multiplied to the group of numbers. So, para mas madali nating maintindihan, let's have this condition. So, we have here A times the quantity of B plus C is just equal with A times B plus A times C. So, dito sa una, we have A times the quantity of B plus C. So, yan, kapag sinolve down natin yan, it's just the same with A times B plus A times C. So, ano nangyari dyan? Bakit naging ganito siya? So, yung A sa labas, dinistribute natin sa nasa loob. So, kapag dinistribute siya, ito yung mangyayari. Magkakaroon tayo ng A times B plus A times C. So, paano yon? So, this is A times B, then plus, dahil yan yung operation sa gitna nila, then distribute A kay C. So, magiging A times C. So, that is distributive property. So, let's try. So, 2 times the quantity of 3 plus 4. So, kapag si 2 dinistribute natin sa loob ng parentheses, so we have 2 times 3. And then, the operation plus. Tapos, 2 distribute kay 4. That will give us 2 times 4. So, that is distributive property. So, let's try to solve. Tignan natin kung magiging pareho yung sagot. So, 2 times 3, that is 6. Plus, 2 times 4, that will give us 8. So, 6 plus 8 is 14. Is that equal to 2 times 3 plus 2 times 4? So, tignan natin. 2 times 3 is 6 plus 2 times 4 is 8. 6 plus 8 is equal to 14. So, same lang sila. So, that is distributive property. Try to answer the following. All you need to do is to identify which property identifies the following statements. So, again, let's have a recap. Ano nga ulit yung mga properties na pinag-aralan natin? So, we have first the closure. Second is commutative. Next is what we call the associative property. And last, we have the distributive. Okay, so yung apat lang ang pagpipilian. So, number 1, we have 7 plus 6 is equal to 6 plus 7. So, what have you observed in example number 1? So, in example number 1, nagpalit lang ng position yung mga numbers or yung order ng mga numbers. So, that is commutative property. Number 2, 6 times 2 is equal to 12. So, what property is that? Okay, that is closure property. Next, 4 times the quantity of 2 plus 5 is equal to 4 times 2 plus 4 times 5. So, what property is this one? So, this is distributive property. Next, number 4, we have 5 times 4 is equal to 4 times 5. So, again, nagbago lang ng position yung mga numbers or order. So, this is commutative property. Next, we have the quantity of 3 plus 5 plus 7 is equal to 3 plus the quantity of 5 plus 7. So, dito naman, makikita ninyo may parentheses. At ano nangyari dun sa parentheses? Sa loob niya, nagbago yung mga numbers. Ibig sabihin, nagbago yung grouping. So, anong property yan? So, that is associative property. Let us now have the fifth property of the operations on integers. This is what we call the identity property. So we have the identity property of addition and identity property of multiplication. Let us first have the identity property of addition. It states that the sum of any number and 0 is the number itself. So kapag ang number daw ay inad natin sa 0, ang sagot ay yung number na yon o yung number itself. Okay? For example, we have A plus O is equal to A. Yung 0, that is what we call the additive identity. So, gawin nating number yung A dito. Let's have an example. So, for example, we have 5 plus 0. So, yung inad natin sa 0 ay 5. Kaya ang sagot ay 5 din, number itself. So, that is 5 plus 0 is equal to 5. That is identity property of addition. Kung ano yung inad natin sa 0, yun din ang sagot, the number itself. So, 0 plus negative 7, of course, the answer is negative 7. So, that is identity property of addition. So, again, 0 is what we call the additive identity because it doesn't change the identity of the number added to 0. Next, we have the identity property of multiplication. It states that the product of any number and 1 is the number itself. Dito naman, ang sagot daw kapag ang number ay minultiply natin sa 1 ay yung number pa rin na yun, or the number itself. In here, 1 is what we call the multiplicative identity. So, we have A times 1 is equal to A. So, yung number, kapag minultiply natin sa 1, ang sagot ay number itself. Ganun pa din. For example, 5 times 1, dito ang minultiply sa 1 ay 5. Therefore, the answer is still 5 or the number itself. Another example is we have 1 times negative 7 is equal to the number itself, which is the negative 7. So that is identity property of multiplication. Let's proceed now to the last property. This is what we call the inverse property. So, dalawa din ito. Inverse property of addition and inverse property of multiplication. Doon muna tayo sa inverse property of addition. It states that the sum of any number and its additive inverse is always 0. So, sa Tagalog, sabi dito, kapag daw ang number ay inad natin sa kanyang additive inverse o yung opposite niya, the answer is always 0. So, this is the condition. If A is added to its opposite, which is negative A, the answer is 0 or vice versa. If negative A is added to positive A, the answer is 0. Example. So, we have 5. Kapag inad natin sa opposite niya, which is negative 5, the answer is 0. Negative 7 added to its opposite, or kabaliktaran, positive 7, the answer is 0. That is inverse property of addition. Another example, if negative 10 is added to, what is its opposite? The opposite of negative 10 is positive 10. So, negative 10 plus positive 10, the answer is 0. Inverse property of multiplication states that the product of any number and its multiplicative inverse, or what we call the reciprocal, is always equal to 1. If A is multiplied to its reciprocal, or the multiplicative inverse, that will be 1 over A. That is equal to 1. We have here 8 times, what is the reciprocal of 8? Kapag ginawa natin yung reciprocal ng 8, that is 1 over 8. So, let's multiply. So, that is equal to 1. Negative 1/4 times its reciprocal. Anong reciprocal ng negative 1/4? That is negative 4. So, kapag minultiply, that is equal to 1. 1 over 10 times its reciprocal, which is 10. So, that is equal to 1. 25 times its reciprocal, 1 over 25. So, that is also equal to 1. So that's it for today. I hope you understand our lesson, the properties of the operations on integers.
Thank you for listening and see you again on our next lesson.